What's going on, guys? It's the SGPN Fantasy Football Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network and presented to you, as always, by WynnBET. Bet $100 at WynnBET and get a $100 free bet. Head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WynnBET at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WYNNBET to claim your free bet today. We're also brought to you by the SGPN merch store. Use the promo code NFCBEAST, all capital, for 15% off, active until the Eagles or Giants lose their next game. And make sure you enter our World Series prop contest. Winner gets $200 cash and $200 gift card to the SGPN merch store. Enter today exclusively on the SGPN app. What's going on, man? We had a busy week. We had Christian McCaffrey is a 49er. James Robinson is a Jet. That had impacts all over the place. D'onta Foreman, he had a little bit of a bump off of that. You see Jeff Wilson kind of goes away, but he still goes back into that handcuff role. James Robinson unleashes things for Travis Etienne. Michael Carter had an 18-hour sell window. It's closed. There's still people out there that believe in Carter. Go take advantage. But James Robinson and Carter are likely to kind of split duties. We didn't see CMC, which I was not surprised. People play too much Madden or something. They thought CMC was going to get off the plane, go on to
plug
the
right
field,
in, yeah,
and plug right in. I'm like, Jeff Wilson's not going to go away. This week, you should see a lot more CMC. He's going to have to get acclimated in the offense. Anytime you see these trades, like even James Robinson, it happened on Monday, so he's more likely to be worked into the offense, but he's not going to go in and take 90% of the workload. It takes a while to learn the playbook, to learn the calls. You got, blocking schemes, you got checks, you got audibles. There's a lot of things to get used to. Don't expect those guys to go right in. But guys like D'onta Foreman, who's been with the team all training camp, all offseason, he had a great game against a tough matchup. Tampa Bay, it's a tough matchup. So we're going to talk to you today about some people that could be on the move, some landing spots, and we're going to do some predictions on where we think they could go, as well as who that could affect for fantasy purposes. We had a big trade today. Kadarius Toney got traded to the Kansas City Chiefs, and because he got traded to the Chiefs, Tyreek Hill is trending. Everyone, wants to do the comparison, because if there's anyone that, looks like he has that kind of a burst, it is Kadarius Toney. But let's not get too early. Let's not put the cart before the horse. Kadarius Toney obviously has not proven anything in the NFL, and this could be an opportunity for the other players where maybe you could buy Juju or buy Mecole Hardman or buy some of these other guys. So what are your thoughts? Just going with Toney. How does that affect the Chiefs? How does it affect the Giants?
Find that Hardman guy and get rid of him, right? So you talked about there's people out there like Mecole Hardman. He had a huge game last week. Sell. I would have told you that even before they brought in Kadarius Toney. Juju is the most solid option right now. He's really looked good, really probably over the last 4 weeks or so. He's kind of been, 8 targets. He's getting 8 targets, and 8 targets from Patrick Mahomes are very, very good. I do think Toney brings that explosion element that is just different. I think he can be a difference maker in the offense. That's taken a little bit of a reach to say he's Tyreek Hill and that, he's going to fill into that hole a little bit. He doesn't have quite that speed that Tyreek Hill has, right? He's not nicknamed Cheetah. But I do think he's going to be a guy that is utilized in the offense. This week, I think it's going to be sparingly, but if it does end up being active, I would expect to see some packages for Kadarius Toney to get the ball into his hands in space and let him work his magic like we saw kind of last season in those few games with the New York Giants. So I do think he's a guy I'd be interested in. I had him on the list for today's show as a buy low. I just don't think you're going to be able to necessarily buy low on him anymore.
No, and for some people, as crazy as things have gone, it might be a sell high opportunity.
Yep.
People are pretty excited, and any value he has a resurgence, because if there's any situation that, I mean, is there a situation that you would have been more excited about than the Chiefs?
No,
I mean, they've done a
especially for
great,
him.
yes, like they've done a great job with difficult personalities. The Giants and him apparently had some conflict about his injuries, but even with the last regime, it just seems like people, like they were not interested in Kadarius Toney. Maybe it's off the field stuff. He's young Joka. He's a rapper. He's an R&B play, R&B singer. I don't know, but let's get into the other guys. So we saw Christian McCaffrey traded. We know Cam Akers is on the block. He's essentially walked away from the team. We know Kareem Hunt has requested a trade in this offseason. And we all are very, very much aware of how Antonio Gibson has fallen out of favor with Washington. Zach Moss was someone that was rumored to be shopped this offseason. Apparently, the Bills were getting calls on him, especially after they drafted James Cook. They did not make any moves. Very publicly, we saw Melvin Gordon he had some fumbles. One of them cost them a game, and Melvin Gordon was benched on national television. Ronald Jones is interesting. Ronald Jones is someone that, people had dreams of him taking over the backfield, and then he almost didn't even make the roster. So Ronald Jones could be on the move or could get cut. The receivers, I think, is where it gets really, really interesting. And so we're going to start with the running backs first. So, Brad, give me one running back that you think would be your most likely to be traded.
I think Kareem Hunt is the answer here. As much as I love Antonio Gibson, and he's the name at the top of this list, if I'm an NFL franchise, I'm calling the Washington Commanders trying to get Antonio Gibson, because I believe he's an absolute difference maker, and he is a young player, a guy that'd be looking to get that contract later on. And I think it can be a cornerstone piece for a really good offense. But I think Kareem Hunt is the most likely guy for a lot of these, especially in a fantasy type situation, right? What you want is a contending team that's looking for a running back that puts them over the edge, right? And I think Kareem Hunt, we've seen what he can do even as a 2 when given the opportunity. And we haven't seen that opportunity come the last couple of weeks. He's been in that 40% snap share like he has been, but they're just not giving him the opportunities. He's not carrying the ball as much the last 2 weeks. He didn't have any targets in basically a blowout against the New England Patriots, where the Cleveland Browns were forced to throw the ball, and he ended up with 1 target. So I think the Browns are going to be looking to move him. He's an unrestricted free agent anyway next season. So finding that right match to get something out of him right now, I think, is a great move for them, as well as for the contending team that takes a shot on him to bring him in. We talked about it on Monday. I thought a great opportunity for him would have been something like the New York Jets, where he could be a 1-year rental until Breece Hall comes back. Maybe a team like the Denver Broncos look to bring in a player like that. But I think Kareem Hunt is the guy that is probably going to draw the most attention, I would feel like, out of a contending type roster.
So let's check in with the sponsors, and I'll let you know the 3 teams that missed out on Christian McCaffrey. Thinking of joining WynnBET, you bet $100 and you get a $100 free bet. If you're looking to join the WynnBET Biggest Winners Club, whoever hits the biggest parlay on WynnBET odds-wise gets a $1,000 free bet. It's WynnBET truly, hashtag DGens only. Plus, you use WynnBET's Build Your Own Bet to build some amazing same-game parlays. It's not too late. Just go join WynnBET now. You can get in on tonight's action. There's so much to choose from. All you have to do is head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WynnBET. Just so they know we sent you. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WYNNBET to claim your free bet today. Offer subject to change. Terms and conditions at WynnBET.com. Must be 21 or older and present in a play where playthrough WynnBET is available. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call 1-800-522-4700.
Yeah, and our sports gambling podcast, The Mothership, is giving you a chance to win your choice of either an autographed Lawrence Taylor, the original LT, or an autographed Brian Dawkins, who happened to be on Good Morning Football today, talking about them Philadelphia Eagles, an autographed jersey of his as well. And the contest is completely free to enter. So here's what you got to do. Go to youtube.com/sports gambling podcast and make sure you subscribe. Again, that's youtube.com/sports gambling podcast. Comment on any video, and each video that you comment on is a new entry. So you can have multiple entries into this opportunity to win that LT or that Brian Dawkins autographed jersey. Make sure you also turn on your notifications so that you don't miss out if Sports Gambling Podcast contacts you when they pull you as that lucky winner for this jersey. So make sure the notifications, you go to youtube.com/sports gambling podcast again for an opportunity to win a Lawrence Taylor or a Brian Dawkins autographed jersey.
We're also giving away a Deebo Smith jersey. Deebo Samuel, sorry. We got Deebo Samuel. All you have to do is subscribe and comment on this channel, SGPN Fantasy Football, and you'll be entered to win a free Deebo Samuel signed jersey. I didn't bring it for the show today, but you can check out Dynasty Dorks or SGPN Fantasy on Twitter, and you can see that beautiful jersey. So again, I mentioned who missed out on Christian McCaffrey. So Christian McCaffrey was 49ers paid a lot. And why did they pay a lot? Was because they weren't the only suitor. The Eagles and the Broncos also made offers. The Los Angeles Rams offered a second, a third, and a fifth. And the Buffalo Bills also made an offer. They offered a second-round pick. That's 4 teams that didn't get him. The Eagles, the Broncos, the Buffalo Bills, and the Rams. So those teams could be in the market for one of these other running backs. And so I think everybody looks at the Rams. They know that they don't care about draft picks, and they are looking to move Akers, who reportedly was also offered in a package to the Panthers for McCaffrey. You could see Akers moved or cut, and cut is a very likely possibility. Knowing the situation, there's no leverage. But, we saw Robbie Anderson go for a 5th and a 6th. You could see Akers go for something like that. The Buffalo Bills, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Broncos, the Rams. Those are teams to watch, all for Kareem Hunt, all for Antonio Gibson.
Oh, Antonio Gibson at the Rams. Oh, my goodness.
And absolutely. And so just like we talked about with D'onta Foreman, it's chess, not checkers. So, yeah, everyone right now, it's going to be hard to get Kareem Hunt. It's going to be hard to get Antonio Gibson. Of course, try. But if you can't get those guys, understand that value, if Antonio Gibson is traded, you could see Brian Robinson's value go up. So maybe you go and go after Robinson. Maybe you go after D'Ernest Johnson. With Kareem Hunt, if Kareem Hunt were to leave, D'Ernest Johnson instantly gets an impact. He goes up into that second role. They have Jerome Ford there. His value rises.
He's on IR though, so that makes D'Ernest Johnson even more important to that offense.
Yeah, for the immediate impact. And so the long-term outlook, you got Nick Chubb's going to be there next year, but D'Ernest Johnson could come back next year, or Jerome Ford could be there, who you can stash on the IR right now. So the Bills is another one. They offered a second-round pick for McCaffrey. That's a lot. And you may not get the same offer for a Kareem Hunt. And teams, Jeremy Fowler's reporting teams could, they think they could get Kareem Hunt for a 4th-round pick. Remember, Kareem Hunt is on an expiring contract. His contract is going to expire, so the team is only getting him on a 7 or 8 game rental. Contracts are definitely a big impact when you look at the values, so don't look at the values just, one for one. So I'm going to go with, my predictions as far as the running backs. We talked earlier. And, I do think that Kareem Hunt is the likely trade. And before today's trade, I thought the most logical place would have been the Kansas City Chiefs. They have a connection. They've been there before. He was the leading rusher. I did an awesome Photoshop yesterday of him in a Chiefs jersey. It looks great. The Rams would have been my second pick. And then the Buffalo Bills would have been my last pick. And again, I'm looking at teams that already shot their shot. Not a lot of people are going to spend a lot of capital on running backs. Not a lot of people are going to go after someone like Hunt, who has a bigger contract. And you also have, you got to be a contender. You're not buying a running back if you're the Houston Texans or the Atlanta Falcons, regardless. You're not in contention. Why would you waste a draft pick on a running back that has expiring contract? Antonio Gibson, you mentioned it, and I think that obviously, like for me, the Rams were the logical spot. I'm going to throw another one that's a curveball, and that is the Miami Dolphins. And so the Miami Dolphins have Raheem Mostert, and he looks fantastic. Chase Edmonds hasn't done squat.
Yep.
They had Sonny Michel. They let him go. Raheem Mostert popped up on the injury report today after I wrote this. But I could see the Miami Dolphins collecting a running back and being a dark horse in this market. They are very familiar with Cam Akers, who's another person they could go after. But I think Antonio Gibson fits the mold. And they also need someone that's got a little bit more size and a little more toughness to go with the backs they have. And Gibson's had a cleaner bill of health than some of the other guys. And he's young, so he could be a long-term fit there. And the other pick I had for Gibson was the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, I think one thing to keep in mind that's kind of looking at the flip side of the coin is what we're talking about now is, we're talking about players that these teams are looking at bringing in. So if you're an owner or you roster some of these guys that are currently the RB1s on those teams and you are not contending, if you have Raheem Mostert, if you have Devin Singletary, if you have Darrell Henderson, if you have, who was the other team? We talked.
I said the
Rams,
Bills, the Rams, the Eagles.
Oh, Miles Sanders. If you own these guys, you should really be looking at trying to get out from underneath them right now, because it's clearly evident that the teams are not, I don't want to say are unhappy with them, but are not necessarily satisfied with them either, right? Miles Sanders, expiring contract, move on from him, figure out how to get rid of these guys before the trade deadline, because once Cam Akers goes there, plummets, value's going to plummet. If Antonio Gibson goes there, value's going to plummet, and you're not going to get what you could get today for them. Especially Miles Sanders has had a pretty good season. Raheem Mostert's looked really good the last few weeks. You might be able to get some decent value if you try to move those guys now off of a team that they just aren't happy with them, like I said. So think about it from that flip side as well.
I'm going to go with Brady on this one. I think the process is right. If you pick Brady tonight and Dalton ends up being the better play, Brady's the one you're going to kick yourself for. Because if you end up sitting Brady, watching him go off, and then Dalton gives
you 10 points.
Yeah. And like Taysom Hill scores 4 touchdowns.
Yep.
You're just going to be sad all week. So just just let it go. He's the GOAT. It's the Ravens are a fantastic matchup. A lot of people kind of you see these teams and you think like the Ravens are a really tough defense. Like that was a while ago. Like the Saints, they're a tough defense to run against. Not anymore. I mean, There's been a lot of changes.
Well, do we know if Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters are playing tonight yet?
I don't have any of that. But
yeah, I mean, if they are, they're playing hurt. So that's another thing to think about.
Yeah, I don't have any of that. Hey man, make sure you subscribe. If you commented already, so you're entered to win the Deebo Samuel jersey. So just all you do is comment on any one of the video. Well, you already commented, so just subscribe, and then you're entered to win for free contest. You just got to send the screenshot over to SGPN Fantasy on Twitter. Rolling with Brady, Henry, Cook, CD, Hopkins, Goddard. You just subscribe. There you go. Yeah, you're good to go, man. This is a nice.
We were hitting
nice
the button
squad.
at the same time. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
So the last running back I wanted to talk about was Cam Akers, and I don't know. I hate it because I'm a Giants fan, but I think the Eagles would make a lot of sense for Akers. They always seem to get good talent at a discount. As much as I hate the Eagles, Howie Roseman, other than drafting receivers, he needs to just like do all the trading and let someone else do the drafting. He's the best at trading. He's absolutely the best in the league at trading. They got Robert Quinn for nothing, and the Bears were like, "Oh yeah, we'll pay his whole salary." But my number one pick for Cam Akers, and this is the team that I wanted to draft Cam Akers, and that's the Buffalo Bills. So I got Buffalo for Cam Akers. I got Miami, Philly is my second choice, and then Dolphins is my third. I put Antonio Gibson on the Rams, and I put Kareem Hunt on the Chiefs. That was before the Toney move. I don't know if they have any more draft capital to give up, but they might. So let's check in with the sponsors, and then we're going to head back into the receivers. Anything on the running backs before we head over there?
Nope, I'm ready.
Cool. Let's talk about No House Advantage. No House Advantage is changing the game by offering the most dynamic fantasy platform available. Play in picking contests for other people for a shot at winning $250K plus in cash. Download the app, choose a contest, select your player props, earn points for correct picks, and climb the leaderboard for your shot to win big money every day. You can also test your skills versus the house and 20 times your entry if you hit all your picks. Bet on up to 5 player props over and under or individual player matchups across every major sports league, including NFL, NBA, MLB, PGA, MMA, and NASCAR. Sign up now with promo code SGPN at nohouseadvantage.com or download the app on the app stores to get a first deposit first deposit match up to $25. Make sure you check out No House Advantage today and experience daily fantasy sports redefined, because it's not just how you play, but it's also where you play. You don't want to miss out on this.
Yeah, and also make sure to enter our World Series prop contest. Our winner gets $200 in cash and a $200 SGPN gift card. So make sure you enter today exclusively on the SGPN app.
Well done, sir. What's up, Justin? Who you got tonight? Who's winning the game tonight? We need to know. Let's go into the receivers. So I mean, there's a ton of them. And hey, I'll throw a couple running backs just to put some out there. Damian Harris is someone that it could be on the block. Zach Moss could be on the block, especially if the Buffalo Bills pick somebody up. And a dark horse that could be a huge one. I've heard some rumors that people are calling about Alvin Kamara to see if he is available. I don't know what that would do with the Saints cap and all that stuff, but that would be a monster move.
That would be interesting.
But let's go into the receivers. Give me one receiver that you think is most likely to be traded.
Ooh, most likely. So I don't see DJ Moore as a guy, right? Everybody, you're hearing kind of rumblings because they sold CMC.
Those are all the DJ Moore owners.
Yeah, I'm just not buying that. It doesn't make sense to me for the organization to do that literally the year after they re-sign him to a pretty healthy contract. So and he's super young. So I'm not buying that one. I think for me, the guy that's kind of fallen out of graces of the organization that looks like he could be a good fit in certain offenses is a guy like Chase Claypool. So I know he's on your list as a potential mover, and that makes a lot of sense to me. The Pittsburgh Steelers aren't really utilizing that skill set as much as what they have tried in the past with Ben Roethlisberger. So I think he's a guy that, teams might inquire about because of his explosiveness and that intrigue of his big, physical, speedy guy running down the field and stretching defenses a little bit. So I think Chase Claypool is a guy that teams could probably get pretty cheap, and that the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking to move on from.
Yeah, and Claypool, he had falling out last year with the team. Then he had some of the, we'll call it off the field, on the field stuff. I mean, he had some off the field stuff. A lot of people don't know, but he got into a bar fight, kicked a dude in the face, and then then he wanted Mike Tomlin to play music at practice, and Mike Tomlin was like, "You play football, I'm going to coach football," and then the TikTok stuff and the celebrating on the field and then he announces George Pickens' selection, which was just the jokes just wrote
brutal
themselves. So Claypool could definitely use a new environment. And how expensive are receivers? They're very expensive. And so you get George Pickens for a cheap price compared to what you're going to have to pay Claypool next year. Plus, you're probably going to compensatory pick for Claypool. So the Steelers will get the compensatory pick, or they'll trade him now. And so we've all been here, bar fighting, kicking people. Yeah. I'll send you the video. I had some I had Marcus Grant and Michael Florio on the show. They were like, I've never heard of that. I'm like, I sent them the video. They're like, no, how did he not get in trouble for this? And Alvin Kamara's getting in trouble. Literally soccer kicks a dude in the face. So I'm going to go with Brandon Cooks. I think Brandon Cooks has it in his contract that he has to get traded every 3 years. And so it's going to happen. Brandon Cooks he's had 6 1,000-yard seasons on 3 different teams. He is one of the most underrated players in the league, and he's on the Houston Texans. And the Houston Texans, they are, obviously looking more towards next year. They're doing a nice job. Things are starting to come together for them, but the wins are not piling up, and he's an older receiver. So what do you do in your dynasty league? You get rid of older players. What are you going to do in the NFL? You're going to get rid of older players. We talked about it a couple episodes ago. It's not a great receiver market next year, so teams might want to get ahead of that. And if they have like a rookie quarterback, that is a great situation where you can go and do that. Or maybe you're in a situation where you just let like a Hall of Fame receiver walk out the door and you have a very crabby quarterback that you need to pacify. So that might be the Green Bay Packers, where the Green Bay Packers could be the situation where we talk about Brandon Cooks, the Green Bay Packers for years and years and years. Maybe it finally happens. Allen Lazard is hurt. Randall Cobb's on the IR. Christian Watson's hurt. I mean, Romeo Doubs is just not working out right now. Brandon Cooks could be the person that gets it right. If Brandon Cooks comes in there, he's a veteran presence. He's going to demand a lot from the defense. He gives some speed that they need. And again, like Aaron Rodgers has done well with people that are great route runners, and he's a pro. And so I don't think it would take long for Cooks to go in there. So that was my prediction for Brandon Cooks was the Green Bay Packers. My second was the Los Angeles Chargers. Keenan Allen's on the mend. Mike Williams is also on the mend. And they have Justin Herbert, and they are in a crazy competitive division. So I think Brandon Cooks to the Los Angeles Chargers would be a lot of fun. Be a short-term deal with him. But, you can see it. And then tonight's team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they miss Antonio Brown. He's not on the team anymore. They do miss him. They miss Rob Gronkowski as well. And so I'm talking about another number 12 that's a little cranky. They're obviously a win now team. And Julio, he's playing tonight, but he's probably going to be a game time decision next week or out for 4 weeks. Brandon Cooks would be someone that would fit really well in this offense in that role that they've kind of carved out for Russell Gage. Hasn't really worked out. And, as they push the chips all in. For Chase Claypool, I put the Dallas Cowboys. I thought the Dallas Cowboys would be an interesting spot for Chase Claypool. They've not been ones that have really been shy at really cared too much about off the field stuff. So I thought that Claypool would be very interesting there. I think there's a few other teams that we've mentioned already. The Packers and the Chargers. I think the Packers would be interesting for him. He would not get traded to the Ravens. That's an interdivision rival. Yep. But any other places you could see Claypool?
No, I think the Cowboys is very interesting, right? They brought in Jalen Tolbert through the draft. They got Michael Gallup back. They moved on from Amari Cooper, but that offense is not really the defense. If we're 100% honest with ourselves, the Dallas Cowboys are winning because of their defense, not because of the way that their offense is playing. And they're missing that deep threat. And I think Chase Claypool may be able to bring that facet of the game to them right now. I don't think Michael Gallup is fully healthy, really. He hasn't looked great in the game that he's been back up to this point. Noah Brown is not that down the field guy, right? They got CeeDee Lamb on one end and really some underneath guys right now. So I think Chase Claypool it'd be very interesting in that spot. I can't see it happening with the Packers. The Packers have got to get a player that can get open and can catch the ball. They don't need another speedy, big, down the field guy that has a tendency to drop some balls that come his way. And I don't think that's going to work out, which is why I've got another guy in mind for the Green Bay Packers, but we'll wait to get there.
And then Denzel Mims, I think, is an interesting one from the dynasty standpoint. A lot of us were excited about him coming out. Then he went to the Jets, and the Jets have done everything they can to bury him on the roster, but they've also held him captive. They've not allowed him to get traded. He's just good enough to sit on the bench. Last year, he played against the Giants, had 6 catches, 91 yards, and a touchdown. He also had another catch that was called back and looked absolutely awesome. And he went right back to the bench, and they drafted another receiver. And so he hopefully gets out of town. I don't think Elijah Moore does, which Elijah Moore obviously would net the Jets a little bit more, a lot more than Denzel Mims. but the Jets they said they're not going to trade him. Denzel Mims, I would think would be very interesting for a lot of different teams, but I'm going to bring him right back to where he was last year. Stay in New Jersey, go to the New York Giants. The Giants have not worked out with Kenny Golladay, and that's the type of player they're looking for, is someone that is a big body receiver that can play outside and do those kind of things. Denzel Mims is a much cheaper version than Kenny Golladay. The Giants did well when they traded for Leonard Williams on an expiring contract from the Jets, and then they turned that into a long-term deal. I could see them doing the same thing with Mims. Who do you got? Are you going with Mr. Jerry Jeudy?
No, I think Elijah Moore was my guy. And it's interesting because he's the type of guy that I think the Green Bay Packers need, right? They've got a big guy in Allen Lazard, and I know he's got the shoulder injury right now, and he's probably going to miss some time. They've got Romeo Doubs, who's a bigger framed guy. He's a taller guy, but they don't have that guy that can get open underneath. And Elijah Moore, if you go and look at Matt Harmon's reception perception when he was a rookie a rookie coming out of Ole Miss, he was absolutely phenomenal at success rates running all kinds of different routes. And I think that's a player that the Green Bay Packers really badly need right now, is a guy that they can just trust to get open on some of those underneath routes, get them some easy yardage, pull that defense up a little bit so they can hit them over the top with a Romeo Doubs or a Christian Watson or Allen Lazard or whatever whatever the flavor of that game is. So I do think that skill set is what the Packers could really use. Now, they don't ever make good decisions when it comes to wide receivers. So it's probably
so they would probably do what Justin's suggesting and go and get, 35-year-old AJ Green.
AJ Green, right. Yeah.
Who does exactly what you said that they don't need. And that's where I was going with. He wants out of town, and don't get me wrong, teams have said I'm not trading a player. The Giants said they weren't trading Odell Beckham. We signed Odell Beckham. We didn't sign Odell Beckham to trade him. 2 weeks later, he was traded. Yep. So Elijah Moore could be traded. I mocked the Packers to Elijah Moore, and I've never forgot about that because I'm like, that would have been so perfect.
Yep.
And so I do think that's where I got, Brandon Cooks, more of a veteran presence. But I do think, if you had, you're right on to it. Like, they need somebody to man that slot.
Yep.
And they don't necessarily have a slot receiver. Randall Cobb was that guy. He's not the same Randall Cobb that he was, 8 years ago. And so having someone like that would be perfect. And, Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy, DJ Moore, those guys would be absolutely perfect fits. And, you unfortunately are probably not going to see it because that's just not how the Packers roll. But I do think that I agree with you completely. Those are all perfect fits for that scenario.
Yeah, and I think the Tennessee Titans are another team that are looking for that type of player, right? They drafted Treylon Burks, that bigger dude, that big guy that's going to give you some yards after the catch. They've got 31-year-old Robert Woods kind of running those underneath routes like he was in LA. And they could really use a third option there. Nick Westbrook-Akine is not the answer. Robert Woods is likely not going to be there long term. So a guy like a Jerry Jeudy or an Elijah Moore that are the better, more crisp route runners could really fit that team. And I think a team that thinks they're probably still a playoff contending caliber team right now. So their defense is decent. They still have Ryan Tannehill. Derrick Henry is still rolling over the course of the last 4 weeks. So that's another team I think you should pay attention to that might be in the market for a wide receiver.
And here's some other receivers that could be moved. KJ Hamler. Hamler has not really done much in his career. He does have high draft capital, and he's a very fast receiver, and people love speed. And so you saw MVS catch a big contract this year. You saw, we've seen, Andy Isabella get drafted in the second round. People love speed. And so you have KJ Hamler. You have a lot of teams that are looking for speed, and he's the guy. And so what they're saying is that the Jaguars beat the Broncos this weekend, that the Broncos are going to go into, rebuild mode. There's even some talk that Nathaniel Hackett could lose his job, but the general manager said, no, that's not going to happen. Kendrick Bourne. Last year, he was one of the most underrated free agency pickups. He had 1,000 yards. He was a great player for the Patriots last year. And then they drafted Tyquan Thornton. They traded for Devontae Parker, and he's just an afterthought. Kendrick Bourne could be on the move. He's another player that has some speed and in the right situation has shown that he can perform. I think he'd be another player that, that especially if you're looking for a cheaper option, that he's someone you can go after right now. And now with the Jamar Chase injury, I don't think the Bengals go make a move, but the Bengals could be a team that tries to get another weapon now that they're, out. Chase is out for at least 4 weeks, maybe longer. So tight ends, there's not many out there, but I do want to throw a couple on the list just because, we could see it. Mike Gesicki has played really well the last couple weeks. The first few weeks, he didn't do anything. And the thought is maybe they're showcasing him. He's on a franchise tag. He's going to have to get signed next year. He's going to want a big contract. They just signed Tyreek Hill to a big contract. They're going to have to sign Tua and Waddle here soon. They got a bunch of young players that they got to sign. And Gesicki might just end up not factoring in as far as the cap. There has been rumors, the Packers, the Bills, the Giants, Tampa Bay, a few different teams. Do you think Gesicki could get moved?
I don't know, because I got to imagine that a move of Gesicki is going to require a contract, and I don't know if people are going to want to pay that right now.
They're not going to have to do a contract. You cannot extend a franchise tagged player after that certain day.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, so once that's why they hold out and don't sign it. But on the certain day, once the tag is, because it's the contract is fully guaranteed, they have a certain day where they can work on an extension, and after that, I think it's the third week of the preseason.
And that doesn't apply for teams that they're to no. Okay, then yeah, I think that's definitely a plausible thing to happen. I just don't know if it's the right move for Miami. Right? Yeah. It doesn't make sense to me for a team like Miami, who is. We just heard they're looking to buy a running back. Why would you go buy a running back and then trade away a skill player in a super athletic tight end? It just doesn't make sense to me from a standpoint of we're trying to win a Super Bowl this season and trying to be a playoff contending caliber team. So I just don't know that it's actually going to happen because of that. Rational ownership, it doesn't really make sense to me right now.
Aaron Rodgers wants AJ Green. I
can't buy that either. Like, they already went and got a 30-year-old Sammy Watkins. Like, why? That makes zero sense.
Aaron Rodgers forced them to get Randall Cobb in his $8 million contract. So why not get AJ Green as well?
I guess
you're just trying to play Madden 2010. So as far as the quarterbacks, do you think there's any quarterbacks that could be moved?
I think some of these backups could. I think Bailey Zappe is very interesting, to be completely honest, right? This is kind of, we talked about this, I think on Monday, or maybe I was talking to somebody else about it. It seems to kind of be the Patriot way a little bit to showcase these backup quarterbacks and then move them to other teams, right? If you can remember, there was this really good quarterback. They got drafted had a really good college season in Arkansas, got drafted, I think, in the second or third round by the Patriots. He was a backup and then got moved to Houston. And I don't know he was really ever anything, right? We had Jimmy Garoppolo. Ryan Mallett. Thank you. I couldn't think of the last name. I thought the name was Ryan, but I could not think of his last name, right? That just seems to be kind of their MO. And we saw Bailey Zappe, right? He came into that game against the Bears in the first half, 2 touchdown drives right off the bat, cooled off in the second half, really because the Bears defense started to get their stuff together, right? And started to play really well. But I think he could be a guy that is kind of a dark horse to be moved into a team that is going to be a 500 team that knows they're not a playoff caliber, not really in contention, but going to be outside of the top 10 to be able to get one of those top 3 quarterbacks in next year's draft, and may look at that as a situation of, instead of reaching for a quarterback in the 3rd round next year, let's go get a guy that we've seen on the NFL field that is going to be fairly reasonably priced for us. and go that route. So I think Bailey Zappe is an interesting guy right now for something like that.
It'd be pretty early. He
Yep.
just got drafted this year.
He did.
We have Gardner Minshew out there. And nothing in the second because the Bears are trending up, gents. Get ready.
Spoken like a true Bears fan.
Yeah, we got a lot of those at SGPN.
Yeah.
It must be a thing with Justin's. But as far as any other backup quarterbacks, I know we had the free agent list the other day. Cooper Rush, he's someone that, I don't know if he played himself into a starting job, especially with how it ended, but Cooper Rush definitely showed his value and did his job. Tyler Huntley has shown some flashes, but Lamar Jackson's also a free agent next year. And so they have that situation to deal with, but we don't necessarily have any. There's no more teams with QB controversies. There's teams with like really bad situations. Like the Panthers have like 4 bad quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And they're going to start them all this year. They're going to find a way to start every single one of them. And, now the Matt Ryan's been moved on from. Sam Ehlinger is the signal caller for the Colts. I will say this. I was at the Bucs game in the Colts preseason, and I saw Sam Ehlinger run for over 100 yards. This guy can scramble, and that's why they brought him in there. They said they thought his scrambling ability would help the offense. And he doesn't have the biggest arm. But as far as, his rushing, that could be something that you're looking at in your Superflex leagues where, he does have a little bit of rushing upside. He's not going to go out there. He's not Josh Allen. He's not Lamar Jackson, but he does have some rushing upside to him, and he is athletic. But any thoughts on that and how that affects the rest of that offense? Your boy Paris Campbell, you got Michael Pittman out there.
Real life, right? I had Paris Campbell in my starting lineup the last couple weeks. I had him in there at the beginning of the week. They benched Matt Ryan. I pulled him out of my lineup immediately. I think it's a major down arrow for all of the pass catchers, including Michael Pittman. I think it's probably likely a down arrow for Jonathan Taylor because teams are just going to stack the box and say, if Sam Ehlinger beats us, then we'll take that. But we're not going to let Jonathan Taylor beat us. So I just think it's just a big time down arrow for that offense as a whole. We talked about this on Monday. I hate every bit of it because I feel like they're doing exactly what they did to go get Andrew Luck, and that is purposefully tank and lose football games. And I really don't like that. And maybe I'm just flashbacking to that. Maybe that's not what's happening because it's not like Matt Ryan was good. So, maybe the team looks at Sam Ehlinger and says, hey, look, this adds some rushing, a little bit of a different approach from an offensive perspective. Maybe it gives us a spark and works. And who knows, maybe it does. I mean, it's not going to take a lot to be better than Matt Ryan. But
yeah, it was interesting because Matt Ryan threw for like 500 yards the week before. Yeah. But then that last week was not good. And, Paris Campbell was basically in the Nyheim Hines role. His air yards was
they're super low. It's not, which is not normal for him, right? I mean, if you think about Paris Campbell in Ohio State, that was not what was he.
He was basically being used as a like satellite back.
Hey, give me those double-digit targets though. Just
he was getting 10 targets for 20 air yards, but he was doing some work with it.
Yep.
And like I said, him and Hines kind of similar the way the usage was. And so we'll see. Ehlinger, I don't really have a lot to go off of as far as he did play last year, but I don't remember if there was a lot of whether he was dumping the ball off or airing it out or anything like that. But I do believe Michael Pittman played with him and didn't have any issues. But Michael Pittman is the one that probably has the biggest concern. All right. Well, hey, I don't have anything else. If you guys have any trade questions or anything else, comment on the video or just get at us at FF Bourbon Dude or at Dynasty Dorks on Twitter. Good luck this season.
Cheers.